welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you.
So you've been on my other show before. Now this one is more trauma informed than addiction informed. So let's start off with, where'd you grow up?
So I grew up multiple places. I grew up in Texas. I grew up in Leander, Texas. I grew up in Rocky Ridge, Ohio. I grew up in LaCarne. I grew up in Port Clinton, like just all of these different areas. So,
Do you
but
have,
Rocky,
do you have a
yeah,
preference?
yeah. So I'll just do like childhood. Childhood would be like Rocky Ridge, Ohio, and then like teenage years slash like preteens would be like Rossford, Ohio.
So
So
you moved around a lot as a kid.
yeah, yeah. That
Now,
that was
now were your parents then not together?
no. So my parents divorced when I was, I think, 3 or 4, probably around 4 years old.
Are you the oldest? Are you the only? Are you the middle, the baby?
No, I'm the baby. I'm the youngest, which it has its perks, but it also has its downfalls.
What are some of
So
the downfalls?
some of the downfalls would be I don't get treated like some people. Sometimes they don't take me seriously. I do things repetitively. I didn't get a lot of so like a lot of the trauma fell on my older sisters because they were the oldest and they wanted to shield me from a lot of it. But the trauma that I did endure was still equally as damaging as some of what they endured, you know? So
How much
it
older were your
was,
sisters?
we're all 2 years apart.
Okay. And can you like shed some light on what some of the trauma that you don't have to get into theirs because this is about you, not them.
Yeah.
But what's some of the trauma that you've been through?
So I'll start with like when I was younger. So my mom she didn't marry him, thank God. My mom was with a man. His name was Nathan, and she was with him for a couple of years on and off. And at first, she was with him for a couple of years. So we started out with him in 2006, 2005, 2006. She met him in Rocky Ridge, and he was like the man of her dreams, is how I looked at it, because I was young and I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom likes him. And like, that's the man of her dreams because I'm a kid. So I didn't like him. I felt a bad vibe, like, because kids catch on to vibes and they can feel things. I truly, truly believe that. So like if a kid tells me like I don't feel comfortable around this person, I will not be around that person. And I will not bring them around that person, you know, just because of what I went through. So like when I was younger, my mom's ex-boyfriend, he started off like cool and he would buy us things and we would go different places and like we were allowed to go like so like Rocky Ridge is a small town. It's like a little village and there's only so much radius to where you can go in this place. So like there was only 2 kids we were allowed to hang out with and those were his 2 little cousins. So it was like when the abuse started and it was like he was an alcoholic and an addict. We didn't know that when we were younger, but my mom later told us that. So like he would come home and he would be like so drunk, so screwed up that like he would take all his anger out on us. And like I'm 6 years old, so like he favored my sisters. my one sister, and there's a different reason why he favored her, but I'm not going to get into that. But he would treat me, as I like to say, like Cinderella. He would make me wash his feet. He would like wipe boogers on me, like just make me feel like complete disgusting. Like it was just nasty, just pure nastiness. And my view of men was very distorted from a young age. And today in my life, I still have trauma of like with men. Um, it bleeds into my relationships and the way that I perceive men today. So I'm glad you're a male and I'm on this podcast with you because I do think you are a safe person to be vulnerable with. I've watched some of your other podcasts and I do believe you're very, very safe to be vulnerable with. And I do thank you for that.
Thank
So,
you
yeah,
for that. That's the kind of vibe I like to try to give off. So I appreciate hearing that too, because I know this is not my first time talking. You know what I mean? Like you've seen some of
yeah,
the other episodes. I take a lot of pride in trying to be somebody that you can feel you can open up to or feel comfortable around. Uh,
yeah.
Now, was your dad around at this time?
So my mom had shared custody with my dad. So like my dad didn't know what was going on in that household because nobody ever told him. And I don't know. I can't say that my dad was totally oblivious to the situation. I mean, there was no way that he didn't know that his kids were getting abused that severely and didn't have even a thought, But he says he had no idea. So I'm just going to go with that. The past is the past. I can't hold that against him. He's getting older now, and I want to forgive him for not being able to be there, you know. So like my mom and dad were co-parenting this whole time, and we would go to his house either every weekend or every other weekend. And like it was like a vacation away from my mom's house, my mom and Nathan. And my mom wasn't my mom was always at work, so like she didn't know what truly went on in the house. It was like the house of horrors when she left. There was times when he would get so angry, like if say I didn't finish my dinner, I would get beat so badly that I wouldn't be able to sit for the next couple days, you know, and that's happened, and I remember, I'm going to share this with you because, this is just part of life, not like life, everybody's life, but this was part of my life. I have trust issues with my mom and because of how she handled some of the situations. I love my mom dearly. I do. But there's a lot of unhealed trauma with that. I remember, I remember the one time um, he had either he had either hit me or he had hit me with a belt, but I got a bruise so bad on my back. He had struck me so bad on my back. I went into the bathroom, I was crying, and I asked my mom to come to the bathroom, and she said, "Well, that's what you get for not listening." And I remember that till this day because, your mother's supposed to protect you from danger. Just like out in the wild, the mama bear is always there to protect her cub. But I think my mom was just more scared than anything. So yeah, there was just a lot of abuse. There was a lot of like mental trauma. I remember a lot of things that I watched my mom go through. That was kind of traumatic.
Yeah, I was going to ask, was he also abusive towards her mentally or physically?
Oh yeah, so he was very, very mentally, physically, emotionally. He was just he was awful. He was a very, very awful man. And I remember my mom would get dolled up and she would put on her makeup and She would look so pretty, and he would tell her that she looked like a clown, that she needed to take it off. And I remember the one night her and him had gotten into a fight so bad. My grandfather had a shotgun, and my mom told me this story, told me and my sisters this story, because I asked her about it. I had spoke to her about it because I remembered it, from that young age. And if I get emotional on this, you already know the drill. I'm gonna get emotional sometimes. So when I was younger and we lived in Rocky Ridge, my mom and him had gotten into a fight so severely that he had grabbed the gun from the closet and he held it up to her face. Me and my sisters were crowded around the top of the steps, looking down at them. And he had the gun in her face and he pulled the trigger and the gun locked up and it was loaded. So that was God or whatever's out there doing for her what she couldn't do for herself. And he saved her life that day. And that was probably the most, besides the abuse, besides anything, that was probably the most traumatic part of my childhood, was just watching this man constantly try to kill my mother. And there was just, I don't know, there was just a lot of stuff that went on in that household that nobody really knew about, and the kids down the street that we were allowed to play with, their parents knew what was going on and they didn't say anything. They just let us come down to the house and stay the night, or sometimes we weren't allowed to stay the night because they didn't want to get involved, and there was no reports to the police because they didn't want that issue. It was a very, very hard time, it was a very, very hard time to be alive at that moment,
Yeah, so I mean, because everybody seems to fear him.
Yeah.
Whether it's your sisters or yourself or your mom or the cousins, it seems like he instilled fear everywhere he could.
Yeah. And he was one of those guys that he would do something bad to you, and then it's one of those men that cheats on you and then buys you flowers and takes you to dinner to make up for it. He would buy us go-karts, snowmobiles, four-wheelers, three-wheelers, anything we wanted, that he could get his hands on for cheap, and he could fix up because he knew how to do that stuff. He would do that. And he would fix it up and, we would use it. And we had a little dirt track in the backyard. Our childhood wasn't all bad. We had good memories. So I don't want to sit here and say that it was just a horrible childhood, that my mom was a terrible person for not leaving this man. My mom was a great woman. She was just very fearful for her life and ours. And like I said, it was just a hard place to be. It's like a rock and a hard place, man.
It's kind of like Stockholm syndrome, where your mom felt like she couldn't leave because her safety, is a concern. And she was probably afraid for herself and afraid that she couldn't help you guys either.
Yeah.
What was finally the straw that broke the camel's back? Because you said they were together for 2 years.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 years. I think it was either 8 or 9 when we left. So it's 6, 7, 8, maybe 8.5. I think it was when, this is what I remember. And we left shortly after that. So I remember the one night he had come home drunk and I had taken a nap, came downstairs, and I brought my blankie with me. And it had a bunch of stuffed animals dragging along with it down the stairs. And I don't know if that's what made him mad or what made him mad, but he just got so angry and he choked me up by my neck and he slammed me into the wall and he put my head through the wall. And I was little. So my mom and my sister were sitting on the couch just crying. They didn't know what to do, And finally he released me and I couldn't believe what just happened. I was just in shock. I I was scared. I was terrified, and my mom finally called my aunt in Texas and said, we need to leave. Like, this is it. We got to go. And my aunt bought us some bus tickets, and we spent 2 days taking a bus down to Texas. It was either a day or two, taking a bus trip down to Texas. And it was just me and my other sister. My oldest sister had gotten to leave a while back before we left. She went to my dad's house because she was of age to decide which parent she wanted to be with. So she got to leave, and we had to stay with our mother, me and my middle sister. So, yeah. Trauma. I'm kidding.
No,
I'm not laughing at it.
no, I know what you mean. So your aunt is your mom's sister, I take it.
Yeah.
And you guys get on a bus to leave there. Now, how long does it take for your oldest sister to be like, I want to go? Like, how soon did she up and leave? Because
So she leave to go with my dad or leave to go to Texas?
No, with your dad.
So she was, I think she was 14, 13 or 14, whatever the legal age is to decide which parent you want to be with. I think it was like a year or two shortly after she got with Nathan that it got bad enough. Like this man, like he tried everything with my sister. Like he was physically trying to kill my sister. That's how bad it got. The abuse got so severe. And he had pet names for us, and I don't know if where the pet names started, but it just he used to make us call him Big Daddy. And you're not my dad. You're not anywhere near my dad, and I don't want to call you that, but thinking back on it now, it just makes me want to throw up because no child should ever have to call a man that's not even her stepfather, not even a male image in her life, not even a male that. You know what I'm saying? No child should have to call somebody that.
Yeah, that reminds me of some he that's so weird. That's super weird to want to be called that. Was he a big guy?
He was, so he was probably 280 pounds, about 6'1", 6 foot.
So yeah, he was a big guy.
Yeah, he was, he was a big guy, but he
Which
was
makes it hurt even more. He's not some skinny, scrawny dude that's getting drunk and abusing you. He's a dude that's putting his hands on you.
Yeah.
And, punishing when he's in no right to punish.
Yeah.
Since you left when you were 8 or 9 years old when you left, have you had to seen him again in the rest of, because you're what, 24?
Yeah.
So have you ran into him at all in the last 15 years?
So my mom, we stayed in Texas for about 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And I think a couple of those years, I don't know how long so my mom was okay, so let's back up. So when we left, he got with another woman, and it was the woman that he was cheating on my mother with. And she was cooking him breakfast, and she burnt the bacon, and he beat her over burning the bacon. And her sister was there, and her sister called the police on him. So he got arrested for domestic violence or something, but he beat her severely. So he got arrested. He went to jail. And when we were in Texas, my mom was getting jail calls from him, and she was forcing us to talk to him. while he was in jail. And again, like, my mom just wanted a family, like, I get she has to take some responsibility for it, but like, I understand why she did some of the things she did, and I'm working on forgiving her, so I have to see, like, she did the best she could with what she had. So I could just cry saying that because that's coming a long way.
Yeah.
It's taken me a long time to say that and think about that. So,
But it's
I mean, yeah, if I really sit back and think about it, I don't think about this stuff a lot because I get so angry about it. But like, if it's in a setting like this, like with my counselors and stuff, like, I talk about it, and like, I still try to see it from her perspective, you know? And, so yeah, so, um, anyway, so we moved back to Ohio for my mom to be with him. And it was me and both of my sisters at this time, because my oldest sister had came back from Ohio and moved to Texas with us. And I think, don't quote me on that. This is where it gets kind of rocky, is when I don't remember a lot of Texas. I don't, because shortly after we got to Texas, I had head trauma from the constant abuse. So like, I had epilepsy. So like, I had a lot of seizures while I was in Texas, and it would follow through into Ohio. And I had seizures all the way up until the age of 16, 17. And I still sometimes have seizures, but more so when I do drugs. But so like, the Texas timeline is very, very foggy to me. Yeah. So, but anyways, I remember moving into Rossford, Ohio, and we got an apartment, and Nathan got out. We all got an apartment together, and things were okay. Like, he didn't start out bad. He wanted to change, but then he started slowly slipping into bad habits again, and there was a lot of abuse happening. And some things kept happening with my sister, and nobody knew about it. And, I think he was the same person that he was when we left. And like, the neighbors, nobody said anything, like, I don't understand how, like, people could hear it happening and nobody said anything. Not even a call about the noise complaint, like, nothing. It was just weird, like, it was just weird. So,
what kind of noise complaint would they call in? Was it like, was he yelling loudly, or was things getting thrown
like,
around, or
all of it, like, we're crying, he's screaming, just, he just wasn't a good person. There was no loving and caring part to him. There was no TLC in his body. So then, I remember for my 10th or 11th birthday. I think my 11th birthday. We went, and he had a daughter with another woman, and he made me share my birthday with her. I wanted my own party, but he made me share it with his daughter, with the other woman. And I had gotten like $100 from my family, and I'm a kid, so like, that's a lot of money. And I was in the car, and like, I was like gloating about my money to my sisters. I'm like, haha, I got this much money, you guys are broke. And because I did that, he took my money and spent it on drugs. Yeah, he stole it and spent it on drugs. So I'm like crying, like, Mom, where's my money? And he's like, that's what you get. Like, it's a dog eat dog world. Like, get over it. You shouldn't have done that. So I don't know. And then, yeah, so that kind of covers I can't tell you how we got out of there the last time, just because it pertains to like my sister's personal trauma, and I don't want to dig into that can of worms.
Yeah, no.
But he was arrested. He was arrested, but they let him out because they didn't have any proof of anything. But they did have proof of the abuse, and they did put him on a restraining order against, like, we got a restraining order against him, and he was on it until we were 18. So my trauma was so severe when I was younger that, like, I would be in school and I could swear I've seen him across the street, just standing across the street looking at the school. I know he wasn't there, but like, it was like, I see you. I know you're there, but you're not there, you know? And that's scary. That's a scary thing for a preteen child to freaking think about, like, I don't know.
When did your using begin? How old were you?
When I what?
When did your using or drinking begin? How old were you?
I was 14. So I was 14 and we moved to another part of Rossford, Ohio, because shortly after he got out of jail, he basically got booked and released when he got removed from the home, from the apartment. And when we left that apartment building, because he kept breaking in and like people kept letting him into the building, because it was like one of those things where you had to buzz in to get into the building. People kept letting him into the building and he kept breaking into our house. And so we moved to another part of Rossford, and basically he had found us again. And when he found us, I was dabbling with like little things here and there, like just alcohol, marijuana. I was just a heavy drinker, not really doing any coke or anything, like just a heavy drinker when I was 14, 15, mainly 14, 13. I had just started my drinking career, and the one night I was with my ex-boyfriend, my first boyfriend, his cousin, my sister, my friend, and we were all in the car. We were on a trip to Walmart. My mom was at home by herself. We get a call from my mom. She's crying. She's just in shambles. And she said, he just broke into the house. I need you to get home. And we knew exactly what it was. We get home and there's mace on the door. Like, we call my oldest sister. She's coming from Oak Harbor, Ohio, which is 45 minutes away. And she's bringing 3 other truckloads with her, like she's bringing the country boys with her. And yeah, they pulled up tough that night, and they all the trucks surrounded the house to make sure that he didn't come back, and I will say that about my friend group at that point in time, is like we had people, we had friends in our life, that were there when nobody else was, because they seen how broken we were, and they seen the potential that we had to be good people. And they said, you know what, we're going to take a chance on you. And that's what they did. So when he broke in, there was blood everywhere from him, like beating on my mom, and things were broken, chairs were broken, glass was broken. There was just, I grabbed a freaking kitchen knife, snapped it in half, punched a hole in the wall. I just went on a rage, and my bedroom was in the back. Them little like mud rooms they have, where it's like you got the back door and then you open another door and it's a little mud room, and then you go through the kitchen.
Yep.
Well, my bedroom was the mud room. So like I was like the little Harry Potter kid. So, which was cool because I had a cool little closet. It was so cool. I love that room. Screw what anybody else says. But I put a little mattress in the closet and a little stereo system. It was like my own little like sitting closet. But it was cool, you know. And
You were saying
so
you went
anyway,
back to your room.
yeah, so I went back to my room and I just cried. I just cried. I was so scared. You know, my window opened up. There was no lock on my window. So like our friend Jacob I was really close to him. And he was my sister's friend at first, but you know, I got close to him and you know, he came in and he's like, Emmy, like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm just crying. And he came and he held me. And I was like, I don't understand. Why can't he just leave us alone? Like, I don't understand. I want a normal life. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired of having to fight. You know, it's
Yeah.
hard. And I feel like even throughout my teenage years, it was constant fighting for my life, you know, through the drug addictions, through the trafficking, the prostitution, the like single prostitution. Once I got away from my trafficker, like I look at it this way. When you do it by yourself, that's prostitution. When you have another person forcing you to do it, that's trafficking. That's how I look at it anyways. Other people would disagree, you know, but that's how I looked at it. And so like it was constantly just fighting for my life. And even today I still fight for my life because at any moment I could go back to the person that I was before I took that first drug, you know?
So, how did you get? You jumped to trafficking from. You
Yeah.
jumped to trafficking. When? How old were you when that started?
Sorry. So I was 16, 15, 16 when I got into heavy drugs, and I was 17, around about 16, 17. I was about to turn 17 when I met my trafficker. He was an older black gentleman, um, around 44 years old, 42, 44. And he said, I'm going to show you a new life, you know? We're going to have fun and you're going to love it. You know, we're going to make money. You're going to have everything you want, you know, and you don't have to go home anymore. And I said, okay, you know? And that's how he manipulated me so bad each time I went back to think that he was going to make everything better because he knew what kind of trauma I went through. Because his sister, air quote, sister, wasn't his sister, just so you know. His sister, she basically got to know me, to know what kind of life I've lived before this, to see how they could manipulate me. And they made a bet with each other on who would get me first. And that was when he told me that, it was a hard thing to swallow. You know, he really said and he just picked my brain, you know, and I don't know, man. Once it started, I just couldn't get it to stop. And it was just constant. Like, I wrote a poem and it's upstairs, and like, I write poetry a lot. And I think it's my biggest outlet. And it's just so, I'm a very strong person. I'm a very, very resilient person. I'm a very beautiful person. And my trauma doesn't define who I am, you know? So when I write, that's how I feel. So with the trafficking and everything, you know, I was looking for serenity in these men. And that goes for the trafficker, the boyfriends, the tricks, you know, the Johns, all of it. You know, I was never shown how a man is supposed to treat a woman. And that's the kind of trauma that I endured, was constant abuse, mental, physical, emotional, psychological. And it was just crazy.
How did you escape him then?
So I like to say jail.
What do you
Jail.
jail?
Yeah, I went to jail. I went to jail, and I was still talking to him in and out of jail the first time I went to jail. And the second time, when it's a very complicated story.
What did you go to jail
So
for?
I went to jail for prostitution.
Okay.
They caught me twice. They caught me twice, man. Not once, but twice. I think it's funny because like I got caught in the same place with the same guy. The same detective caught me, and I didn't even remember him because I was so screwed up on drugs.
Yeah.
So it got me for prostitution, and the first time I went in, I was still talking to my trafficker, and he was sending me money for books, and not literal books, but he put money on the books and everything, and phone calls, and yeah. And when I got out, I went back to him, went back to that lifestyle, and then some things happened. I'm not going to get into that. It was like I got robbed with his drugs and money, and I ran to Pennsylvania because I was terrified of what he was going to do to me. And when I got back, he's like, just come home. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. Come home. And I go back to him, and he ends up putting his hands on me. And I was like a puppy dog just in the corner, just crying, like, please stop, please stop, and I was like, you told me you would never put your hands on me. And he did, you know. It was the first time he'd ever put his hands on me, and not justifying it, but it was the first time he had ever put his hands on me, and the last time. So I left then, and I talked to him still, and I still bought drugs from him, but I didn't prostitute for him again. I didn't get caught back up in that part again. It was kind of like a high and buy thing. I wasn't going to let him manipulate me anymore. And then I went to jail the second time, and I got to go to Columbus and get sober because of the decision that I made that I wasn't okay, that I needed help. And I haven't talked to him since.
How long has that been?
It's been 4 years. 4 years since I've seen him, talked to him.
It's ironic that you went to Columbus to get clean, because I've had a few people on here that were trafficked in Columbus.
Yeah.
So, like, really, like, at least two of them, they were trafficked together at the same time by the same people.
I seen that one. You talked to me about that one too, and I went and watched it.
Yeah. It's crazy what's happening in Ohio. Well, it's happening everywhere, but the stories that I'm hearing are out of Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio is crazy. Like, I don't know. People don't like Texas. Texas. This is totally off topic, but somebody told me this the other day. Texas has the highest rating of STDs in the country. That's crazy.
Texas?
Totally off topic. Yeah, Texas. Totally off topic, but like
Why?
I wonder why.
So when was the last time you've had to like see or hear from Nathan?
Back in I haven't seen or heard from him since I was 13,
Okay.
12.
So it's
But
been over
my
10 years.
sister, so my sister, in her profession, I'm not going to expose that, but in my sister's profession, she got a call one night, and she got to go basically check in on this guy, and it was him, and she got a closure, because he was doing terrible. His life didn't turn out any better, and she's doing great things. And, I'm doing great things. I'm sober. I'm in a loving household, with some awesome women. I'm working on getting my life together. Everything is coming to, and I'm not saying I would wish a bad life on anybody, but like karma is real. You know, you get what you put out into this world, and you did really bad things to good people.
For
And
a
if
long
you, for a long time, and if you would have just gave us the chance to grow and just left us alone, we could have been prospered. I'm not saying that I blame him for my addiction or anything, but it definitely didn't help. I take full responsibility for my addiction. You know?
Was it, you got to refresh our memory, was he the one that got you to drink for the first time?
No.
No?
Oh,
Okay.
no, he was the one that gave me my first drink at 6.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, my first drunk was with another one of my mom's male friends. So he was
Okay.
my first drink, and my first drunk was with another one of her male friends. So, like, Nathan gave me my first sip of alcohol at 6, and then I got plastered at like 12 with one of her male friends.
Okay, that's probably what I was thinking of then, because I knew
Yeah.
that. Did you have to worry about anything with any of her other boyfriends, or
No.
were you skeptical at all of them when they would come around?
Um, so she only brought around one other guy, one or two, I think one or two other guys. And the other one wasn't really her boyfriend, he was just one of her friends. But the one guy, she liked to say that they weren't doing anything, that they weren't together, nothing. But I'd be like, no, that was your boo. And he was a cool guy. I didn't get a bad vibe from him, but like he was an alcoholic, so like he didn't he didn't do anything to harm us. He was a cool guy. He didn't have his priorities straight. You know, he
Yeah.
never he never laid a finger on us. He never talked to us in a wrong way. Like he made sure to tell us that we were princesses. That kind of guy. So I do appreciate that kind of person. So like I instantly clicked with him. But I think that could also be my daddy issues.
Are you
But
on better terms now with both your parents now that you're clean?
yeah. Yeah. So I love my mom and my dad, and we talk every night. I call them both each night. So
That's good. How much clean time do you have now?
so I have almost 9 months.
That's
Almost 9 months. Yeah, I had around 7 months when we last spoke. So I'm coming up on that year, baby.
Yep. What's your anniversary?
June 5th of 2024. No, June 5th of 2024. There we go. No,
January?
January.
I was like,
January
dude,
5th.
you got 9 months, Emily.
Sorry. January 5th of 2024. I get my J's messed up.
That's awesome, though. What was the reason you got clean?
I was just tired. I was tired of hurting my family. I was tired of hurting myself. I almost died. You know, it was the first time I've actually had that scare of almost dying, like not knowing what happened when I woke up.
Was it an overdose?
It wasn't an overdose. It was more of like So like they were mixing fentanyl with my crack, and I was having seizures so severely that like my brain was literally like shutting off. Like I would wake up, like it took my dad like a couple minutes to just like Emily, you know, and he's telling me this. He's like, dude, you were just like that's the face he made, was like I was just like, and I was like, that's terrifying to see. I don't want my dad, and I laughed about it. That's not funny. That's something a parent never wants to see. And I talked with my sponsor, sat down with me and my dad one day, and she's like, is there anything that she does that makes you feel uncomfortable and or hurts you? And he said, when she jokes about her addiction. And that one cut deep because my humor is how I cope with it. But I can stop doing that around my parents because they gave me life, and I decide how I'm going to live my life today, and I'm going to live it clean, because they gave me life and they want me to live, and they support me in my sobriety. So like, who am I to sit here and try to take that away from them? They love that I'm sober. I love that I'm sober. I shouldn't be joking about almost ODing,
Yeah, it's stuff like that we didn't know from our parents until after we got clean. My dad said that he used to hear me stop breathing in the middle of the night from, being so high that I would have I had horrible sleep apnea in my
Yeah.
using days. And my dad said he could hear me stop breathing all the time from the room over. And I never knew I was doing that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He told me that after I got clean, and I had no idea that I was doing that.
Right.
But no, there is some humor in it, but we can pick and choose who to have the humor around.
Right.
It's easy to be in a meeting and making jokes at a meeting because everyone there
Has been through the same thing.
yeah,
They're your people,
like one of the like mottos is we're not a glum lot. You hear that all the
Yeah.
time. It's one of those slogans that you hear, we're not a glum lot. So I would say keep the humor independent on where you're at, whether it's you're making somebody else laugh who is an addict with you, or you're sober together, you're clean together, whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
There's Facebook groups that are all about sober humor or addict
Yeah.
humor.
I've seen a couple of them. They're raunchy, man.
I'm in a group called the Dark Side of the Spoon.
Uh,
Where you never got into injecting, did you?
no.
Yeah.
No, I was just a heavy smoker.
Yeah, the dark side.
Smoker and pillhead. Not like
Yeah.
I was okay. So let me clarify pillhead. So like, when I was younger, I would steal my mom's Percocets, and then I liked the effect until I didn't like the effect. So then I went to ecstasy and Molly. And like that's where my pill addiction took me, was from like downers to uppers. Fuck. It was crazy, man. What the fuck?
Yeah. No, I did my pill addiction started with muscle relaxers in high school,
Yeah.
like somas, and
Then
then
the Klonopin.
yeah, yeah, them too, like junior year. Um,
Yeah.
Senior year were muscle relaxers. When I was 21, I got into I started taking perk 10s when I was
Mm-hmm.
21, and I wouldn't do them every day. I did them here and there. And then when I turned 22, I bought two perk 10s, and I'd never been that high before. For whatever reason, they hit me that night. And it's almost been it'll be 16 years ago October, I want to say 22nd. It was like mid to late October. So, yeah, it's almost been exactly 16 years since I got that high. So, and that catapulted me into a decade-long daily use of perk 30s. Like, I mean, catapulted me into that. And I stuck with perk 30s for 10 years. So I applaud you for getting sober when you did being young.
Yeah.
Because when I was 24, I was nowhere near where you're at, and I couldn't process any of the things that I've been through. When I was 28, I had a fiance commit suicide, and
Oh,
I never properly processed that. I dove head first into my drinking and my using. Um, I never learned how to be an adult until recently, and that's through therapy. And I had decided that I'm going to go back to school to be a therapist, because that's what I was studying when I was in college 15, 16 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's been 18 years. I'm old as fuck, Emily. Um, so yeah, it's been 18 years. I was studying psychology, so I'm going to go back and finish that degree. And that's kind of, my therapist was like, you should do a podcast on trauma. And I was like, maybe I should. And she's like, I think it would be good for you. So
Right.
here we are. And thank you for coming on, and being so open and being so vulnerable. Like, you're like, sorry, I'm going to cry. It's okay to cry.
Yeah.
You should be crying. If you weren't crying, I would be questioning you if you weren't crying at some of the trauma you've been through.
Yeah.
So, but I'm happy to see you have counselors now. Do you have a therapist?
Yes.
Good.
I have a counselor and a psychiatrist.
Okay, and a sponsor.
Yep, and a sponsor.
Okay, so yeah, you got.
I got a good team.
Yeah, you got a team going.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime. I'm happy to have you on either of my shows to break down trauma, break down addiction.
Yeah.
You're very open about it. You're very vulnerable, and it's a real raw story. And what you've been through needs to be talked about, because there's other people that are suffering, that have been in your shoes, that don't know that they're not alone until they see this and they realize they aren't alone, that there are other people out there that are fighting for the same thing. That, you know what I mean? Like, I get choked up thinking about it. But you're a testament of what you can do and how you can turn your life around at a young age. So keep doing what you're doing. I think you're doing great. Thank you for coming on here and being so open and honest. And I appreciate you a lot, Emily.
All right. Thank you so much. You have